Islam is based on 5 things. They are known as the 5 pillars of Islam. The 5 pillars are 1. Iman, believing that Allah is one and that Nabi Muhammad is his messenger. 2. Salah, performing the 5 daily prayers. 3. Zakah, giving charity to the poor. 4. Sawm, fasting in the month of Ramadan. 5. Hajj, performing the pilgrimage to Makkah. Like pillars in a building, these pillars keep Islam standing up strong.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله.
I testify that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. The Shahada is the first pillar of Islam and the most fundamental expression of Islamic beliefs. It's the act of sincerely reciting from the bottom of the heart that there is no God but God and Muhammad is his prophet. The Shahada is the affirmation of faith in Islam, combining the themes of unity and mercy that are found in the Quran. It consists of 2 parts that represent the main beliefs of Islam. The first part of Shahada in Islam states that there is no God but Allah, which means that no other being has the right to be worshipped and that Allah Almighty has neither partner nor son. The second part of the Shahada witnesses that our beloved Prophet Muhammad is the last prophet and messenger sent by Allah. Importance of the Shahada, the first pillar of Islam. This pillar is your initial submission to Islam. The Shahada reminds the Muslims about the purpose of their life, which is to worship Allah alone by learning Quran, apply its teachings, and the teachings of the last Prophet Muhammad. When Muslims declare their faith, they are united with other Muslims as everyone tries to fulfill this purpose and feel closer to Allah. Number 2. Salah. Salah or Salat comes from the Arabic word which refers to the Muslim prayer. Salah is the second pillar of Islam and represents the backbone of Islamic belief. Muslims have to perform 5 obligatory prayers daily, according to a certain time schedule, when they turn individually and collectively to Makkah, performing certain rituals to fulfill this great holy duty. The 5 set prayers and their times are Fajr, dawn prayer; Zuhr, noon prayer; Asr, afternoon prayer; Maghrib, sunset prayer; Isha, after sunset prayer and before midnight. Prayer includes a recitation of the opening surah of the Quran, Surah Al-Fatiha, and other small surahs, in addition to performing certain moves and positions. Accordingly, in order to perform the prayer, you must learn Quran recitation.
Although you can perform Salah solely, it is meritorious to perform it in a group. Moreover, it is permissible to pray at home, at work, or even outdoors. However, it is highly recommended that Muslim males perform Salah in a mosque.
Zakat, almsgiving, charity, Quran ayat. Zakat comes from the Arabic word which means purification. It's the third pillar of Islam and refers to giving alms or charity to benefit the poor and the needy. According to Islam, Muslims have to deduct a certain amount of their income to support the Muslims in need, and it is usually about 2.5% of an individual's net income excluding obligations and family expenses. There are 5 principles that should be followed when giving the zakat. The giver must declare to Allah his intention to give the zakat. The zakat must be paid on the day that it is due. After the offering, the payer must not exaggerate about spending his money more than usual means. The payment must be suitable for the current financial situation. This means if one is wealthy, then he or she needs to pay a portion of their income. If a person does not have much money, then they should compensate for it in different ways, such as good deeds and good behavior toward others. The zakat must be distributed in the community from which it was taken. Importance of zakat, the third pillar of Islam. Zakah reminds rich Muslims of their duty to the poor and strengthens the feelings of brotherhood among Muslims. It also stops wealthy Muslims from making money more important than Allah.
Number 4. Sawm, fasting during Ramadan. Sawm or fasting is the 4th pillar of Islam. Fasting in Islam means abstaining from many things during the fasting period, such as food, drink, including water, medication, any acts of evil, any sexual activity, backbiting, harming oneself or others, smoking, intoxication, impure thoughts, etc. Although Muslims can voluntarily fast anytime, The obligatory fasting for all healthy adult Muslims is the one during the daylight hours of Ramadan, the ninth month of the Islamic calendar. Moreover, in the month of Ramadan, the Quran was started to be revealed upon the Prophet Muhammad. That's why it is often called the month of Quran, when the best action to do along with fasting is to learn Quran. Importance of fasting, the fourth pillar of Islam. Sawm, or fasting, reminds Muslims of the teachings of the Quran because the whole Quran is usually recited throughout this month. It unites them because they are all fasting together and break the fast together. It makes them focus on their faith and stops them from making the desires of the body more important than worshipping Allah. The Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca. The Hajj, the Mecca pilgrimage, is the fifth pillar of Islam. It's an amazing spiritual gathering of over 2 million Muslims from all over the world at Mecca, Saudi Arabia, the holiest city for Muslims. In performing the Hajj, a pilgrim follows the order of ritual that the Prophet Muhammad performed during his last pilgrimage. The pilgrimages to Mecca for Hajj occur annually during the 12th month of the Islamic calendar. All Muslims who are physically and financially able are required to make the pilgrimage to Mecca and the surrounding holy sites at least once in their lives. Pilgrims have the opportunity to pray for forgiveness, reflect on their lives, and find spiritual fulfillment that they can take with them. Importance of the Hajj, the fifth pillar of Islam. The Hajj reminds Muslims of Ibrahim and his worship and devotion to Allah. So Muslims do the same. It brings the international community of Muslims together. It makes them focus on worshipping Allah Almighty and teaches the importance of sacrifice. Listen to this story. One day the Sahaba were sitting with the Prophet of Allah when, all of a sudden, there appeared a stranger walking towards them from the desert with pure white clothes and pitch black hair. It did not appear that the man had travelled, as his clothes were spotless, and neither did any of the Sahaba recognize him. The man walked up to the Holy Prophet Muhammad, passing calmly through the people who were present. He kneeled down and sat in front of the Prophet of Allah in such a manner that his knees were touching the knees of the Prophet. He then leaned over and said, "O Muhammad, what is Islam?" The Prophet replied, "Islam is that you believe that there is no God but Allah and that Muhammad is his messenger, and that you perform regular Salah and give Zakah and observe fasting during the month of Ramadan and perform the Hajj if you can afford the journey." Hearing the Prophet's reply, the stranger remarked, "You have spoken the truth." The Sahaba were quite surprised at this remark. The stranger first asked the question and then agreed that the answer was correct. How very strange, indeed. Who was he, and why was he asking what he already seemed to know? The stranger then continued to ask questions, and every time the Prophet answered, the stranger remarked, "You have spoken the truth." The Sahaba listened attentively to every word of the strange conversation. Who was this man? They asked themselves. Eventually, the stranger got up and left as suddenly as he had appeared. The Sahaba were baffled. They were curious to know who the stranger was and why he asked those questions. They had listened attentively to everything that was said, hoping to find a clue. The Sahaba respectfully did not ask the Prophet, for they knew that he would not withhold what was important for them to know. The Holy Prophet remained silent. Some time later, the Prophet asked, "Do you know who the questioner was?" A Sahabi replied, "Allah and his Prophet know best." The Holy Prophet thereupon said that was Angel Jibrahil. He came into your assembly to teach you your religion. From this story, we have learnt the most important practices in Islam are 5, namely Iman, Salah, Zakah, Sawm, and Hajj. These 5 practices distinguish a Muslim from those who follow other false religions. Assemblies of learning are open to all people, even strangers. Asking questions is the best way of learning. In order to get people to pay careful attention, it is necessary to first arouse their curiosity. Listening attentively is necessary in order to learn. Asking questions, paying attention, and listening attentively all help us to remember important lessons. Angels too are employed for the guidance of mankind. Angels sometimes take the form of human beings. Ask your parents or elder siblings to help you find 2 more verses of the Holy Quran that describe the purpose of any 2 of the 5 pillars of Islam. Don't forget to include the chapter and verse numbers too.
إنني أنا الله لا إله إلا أنا فاعبدني وأقم الصلاة لذكري.
Establish Salah for my remembrance